The discovery. The warning signs. Captain Sarah Chen floated in the observation deck of Jupiter Station, her coffee drifting in a perfect sphere beside her. The massive gas giant filled half the viewport, its red spots swirling like an ancient eye. Jupiter Station had been humanity's farthest outpost for 3 years now, quietly monitoring deep space for any signs of life beyond Earth's solar system. Sarah had joined the Deep Space Monitoring Program because she believed in humanity's future among the stars. At 35, she had already discovered 2 new asteroid fields and helped establish mining operations on Europa. But nothing had prepared her for what appeared on her screens that Tuesday morning. The alert chimed softly at first, then grew urgent. Sarah pushed herself toward the main console, her movements practiced in the low-gravity environment. The long-range sensors were detecting something massive moving toward their solar system from the direction of Alpha Centauri. Computer, run full spectrum analysis on contact designation Sierra 1, Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the growing excitement in her chest. The results made her heart skip. The objects were artificial, traveling at impossible speeds, and there were hundreds of them. Sarah's hands trembled as she initiated emergency protocols she had hoped never to use. First Contact Protocol. Dr. Marcus Rivera was in the station's laboratory when the emergency alarm sounded. As the xenobiology specialist aboard Jupiter Station, he had spent years preparing for this moment. His thin frame moved quickly through the corridors as he made his way to the command center. "Sarah, what do we have?" Marcus asked, pulling himself into the chair beside her. Captain Chen's face was pale as she showed him the sensor readings. "Look at these formations, Marcus. They're not random. This is organized, military-style movement." Marcus studied the data, his scientific mind racing. The fleet consisted of over 300 vessels, the largest ones measuring nearly 2 kilometers in length. They were decelerating as they approached the outer solar system, suggesting they had been traveling at significant fractions of light speed. "Have we attempted communication?" Marcus asked. "Started the moment we detected them," Sarah replied. "No response to any of our standard first contact protocols." As if summoned by their conversation, the communication system crackled to life. The voice that emerged was harsh, mechanical, and filled with unmistakable menace. "Inhabitants of the Yellow Star System, you will prepare for immediate subjugation. Your species will serve the Dominion as laborers and subjects. Resistance will result in complete elimination. This is your only warning." Sarah and Marcus exchanged horrified glances. This was not the peaceful first contact humanity had dreamed of. Earth's response. The message from Jupiter Station reached Earth 18 minutes later, traveling at light speed across the vast distance. In the emergency command center beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral James Knox stood before a wall of screens showing every major world leader. Admiral Knox was a veteran of 3 wars and had been chosen to lead Earth's defense forces precisely because of his ability to remain calm under pressure. At 62, his gray hair and weathered face spoke of decades making hard decisions, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Knox began, his voice carrying to leaders in Washington, Beijing, Moscow, London, and dozens of other capitals, "we are facing an existential threat to our species. The enemy fleet will reach Mars orbit in approximately 2 weeks. The President of the European Federation spoke first. "Admiral, what are our options?" Knox pulled up tactical displays showing Earth's military assets. "Conventional military response is not viable. Our most advanced spacecraft would be outgunned and outnumbered 1,000 to 1. However, Dr. Rivera at Jupiter Station has discovered something potentially useful." The screen shifted to show Marcus Rivera's tired but determined face. "The alien communication contains biological markers," Marcus explained. "Their vocal patterns suggest they evolved under a red star with significantly different radiation than our Sun. Their physiology may be specifically adapted to their home star's wavelength." "Meaning what, exactly?" asked the Prime Minister of the Pacific Alliance. Marcus took a deep breath, meaning they might be vulnerable to our sun's radiation in ways they don't expect. If we can concentrate and amplify solar radiation at specific wavelengths, we might be able to disrupt their biological systems. The plan takes shape. Back aboard Jupiter Station, Sarah worked with teams on Earth to develop humanity's desperate gambit. The plan was audacious in its simplicity and terrifying in its risk. Earth's combined space agencies would deploy a network of solar radiation amplifiers throughout the Mars orbit zone. These devices would collect and concentrate the sun's energy, then release it in focused bursts at wavelengths specifically harmful to the alien physiology. It's like creating an invisible minefield, Sarah explained to Admiral Knox during one of their strategy sessions. They won't see it coming because they've never encountered a species that could weaponize their own star. The work began immediately. Every space-capable nation contributed ships, personnel, and technology. Russian heavy-lift rockets carried the massive amplifier arrays, while Chinese precision manufacturing created the delicate focusing elements. American computer systems coordinated the network, and European solar research provided the theoretical foundation. Meanwhile, the alien fleet continued its relentless approach. Long-range observations showed them passing Neptune's orbit, then Uranus, their formation never wavering. The enemy revealed. Aboard the Dominion flagship, Eternal Conquest, Fleet Commander Zara 9 reviewed the tactical situation with satisfaction. Zara 9 stood nearly 3 meters tall, her insectoid body perfectly adapted to the dim red light of her homeworld. Her 4 arms moved with precise efficiency as she examined the primitive solar system before them. Status report. Zara 9 clicked in the harsh language of the Dominion. Her tactical officer, a smaller member of her species designated Crix 4, responded immediately. The third planet continues its feeble preparations, Commander. They have launched numerous small craft, but nothing that poses any threat to our shields. Zara 9's compound eyes focused on the blue-green world ahead. It would make an excellent addition to the Dominion's empire. The native species showed signs of basic intelligence and would serve well in the mining colonies of the outer territories. Any changes in their star's output? Zara 9 asked, though she considered it a routine question. Minimal fluctuations, Commander. Their star burns much brighter than home sun, but our environmental suits will compensate during the occupation phase. Zara 9 made a sound of approval. The conquest would proceed as planned. In her 3 decades of military service, she had overseen the subjugation of 17 different worlds. None had ever mounted effective resistance against Dominion technology. Maintain current formation. We will establish orbital control over the third planet within 6 rotations. Final preparations. As the alien fleet crossed Jupiter's orbit, humanity made its final preparations. Sarah watched from Jupiter Station as the last of the amplifier arrays was positioned near Mars. The network now consisted of over 400 devices, each one invisible to conventional sensors, but capable of focusing lethal amounts of solar radiation. Array 77 is online, reported Lieutenant Sofia Petrov from Mars Base Alpha. Sofia was a 30-year-old engineer who had volunteered to remain at the dangerous forward position to manually activate the network when the aliens arrived. Dr. Rivera had not slept in 3 days, constantly refining the calculations that would determine humanity's survival. His research showed that the aliens' home star produced virtually no ultraviolet radiation, meaning their biology had never developed defenses against the intense UV output of Earth's sun. If we're right about their physiology, Marcus told Admiral Knox, concentrated UV radiation should disrupt their nervous systems within minutes. Their ships might continue functioning, but the crews will be incapacitated. And if we're wrong? Knox asked quietly. Marcus met his gaze steadily. Then we've used our last chance, and Earth falls to the Dominion. Admiral Knox nodded grimly. Across Earth, families gathered in their homes, watching the news broadcasts that showed the alien fleet's approach. Some prayed, others celebrated what they thought might be their last days. but most simply waited, trusting in the ingenuity and determination that had carried humanity from caves to the stars. Captain Sarah Chen floated in Jupiter Station's observation deck, watching the alien fleet pass her position. The ships were massive and beautiful in a terrifying way, their hulls gleaming with unknown metals and bristling with weapons that could reduce cities to ash. But Sarah smiled as she watched them go. The aliens thought they were approaching a helpless planet defended by primitive technology. Instead, they were flying directly into a trap that had been designed by the greatest minds of an entire world working together for the first time in human history. The fleet continued toward Mars, unaware that their intended victims had turned the very star that gave Earth life into a weapon of unimaginable power. Humanity's silent defense waited patiently for its moment to strike. The trap. The approach to Mars. Fleet Commander Zara 9 stood on the bridge of eternal conquest as her fleet approached the red planet. Mars hung before them like a rust-colored jewel, barren and seemingly insignificant. Her tactical displays showed scattered human installations on the planet's surface, nothing that posed any threat to the mighty Dominion fleet. Commander Crix 4 reported, "The humans have positioned numerous small satellites throughout this region. Our scanners detect no weapons or shield generators." Zara 9 examined the tactical display with her compound eyes. The human devices were indeed small and appeared to be scientific equipment rather than military hardware. Probably observation platforms, she concluded, desperate attempts to gather intelligence on our capabilities. What Zara 9 could not know was that she was looking at the most sophisticated trap ever devised by human minds. Each of those observation platforms was actually a solar radiation amplifier, carefully positioned to create overlapping fields of concentrated stellar energy. The Defender's final moment. On Mars Base Alpha, Lieutenant Sofia Petrov monitored the approaching fleet from her underground command center. Sofia had volunteered to remain at the forward position despite the enormous risk. If the plan failed, she would be among the first to die when the Dominion began their conquest. "Earth Control, this is Mars Base Alpha," Sofia reported into her communication array. "Enemy fleet is entering the trigger zone. All amplifiers are standing by." Admiral Knox's voice crackled back across the millions of kilometers. "Copy, Mars Base. Dr. Rivera confirms all calculations are locked in. You are authorized to activate on your discretion." Sofia looked at the simple red button that would either save humanity or accomplish nothing at all. Her hand hovered over it as she watched the alien ships move deeper into the amplifier network's range. The moment of truth. Dr. Marcus Rivera watched from Jupiter Station as the alien fleet moved into position. His calculations had to be perfect. Too early, and the aliens might escape the trap. Too late, and they would reach Earth before the radiation could take effect. "Sarah," he called to Captain Chen. "Their lead ships are at optimal position. The entire fleet will be within the network in 30 seconds. Sarah nodded, opening a channel to Mars Base. "Sofia, you have green light for activation." Lieutenant Petrov took a deep breath and pressed the activation button. "Network is live. Solar amplifiers are charging." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The alien fleet continued its steady approach toward the inner solar system, unaware that they had just entered humanity's trap. Then the amplifiers began their work, the invisible attack. The solar radiation amplifiers had been positioned to create overlapping fields of concentrated ultraviolet energy. To the naked eye, nothing had changed. Space looked exactly the same as it had moments before, but instruments sensitive to UV radiation would have shown the entire region around Mars glowing like a miniature star. Aboard the Dominion ships, the first effects were subtle. Crew members began experiencing headaches and disorientation. The ship's environmental systems, designed for the dim red light of their home world, provided no protection against the intense UV bombardment. Zara 9 felt the first wave of nausea as her nervous system began to shut down. "Medical emergency," she tried to say, but her voice came out as a weak clicking sound. Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out on every ship. The aliens' evolution under a red star had left them completely vulnerable to Earth's yellow sun when concentrated to lethal levels. Their exoskeletons, so effective against conventional weapons, offered no protection against radiation that penetrated to the cellular level. The fleet's collapse. HFY collapsed at his station as his nervous system overloaded. Across the ship, crew members were falling unconscious or losing motor control. The Bridge of Eternal Conquest became a scene of chaos as the command staff succumbed to radiation poisoning. Zara 9 managed to trigger an emergency beacon before she lost consciousness, but it was too late. The entire Dominion fleet was now drifting helplessly through space, their crews incapacitated and their ships running on automatic systems. From Earth, Admiral Knox watched the incredible scene unfold on his displays. "Dr. Rivera, are you seeing this?" Marcus Rivera could barely contain his excitement as he analyzed the sensor data. "It worked, Admiral. The alien ships have lost maneuvering control. They're drifting on ballistic trajectories." The solar radiation amplifiers had been positioned to create overlapping fields of concentrated ultraviolet energy. To the naked eye, nothing had changed. Space looked exactly the same as it had moments before, but instruments sensitive to UV radiation would have shown the entire region around Mars glowing like a miniature star. Aboard the Dominion ships, the first effects were subtle. Crew members began experiencing headaches and disorientation. The ship's environmental systems, designed for the dim red light of their home world, provided no protection against the intense UV bombardment. Zara 9 felt the first wave of nausea as her nervous system began to shut down. "Medical emergency," she tried to say, but her voice came out as a weak clicking sound. Throughout the fleet, similar scenes played out on every ship. The aliens' evolution under a red star had left them completely vulnerable to Earth's yellow sun when concentrated to lethal levels. Their exoskeletons, so effective against conventional weapons, offered no protection against radiation that penetrated to the cellular level. The fleet's collapse. HFY collapsed at his station as his nervous system overloaded. Across the ship, crew members were falling unconscious or losing motor control. The Bridge of Eternal Conquest became a scene of chaos as the command staff succumbed to radiation poisoning. Zara 9 managed to trigger an emergency beacon before she lost consciousness, but it was too late. The entire Dominion fleet was now drifting helplessly through space, their crews incapacitated and their ships running on automatic systems. From Earth, Admiral Knox watched the incredible scene unfold on his displays. "Dr. Rivera, are you seeing this?" Marcus Rivera could barely contain his excitement as he analyzed the sensor data. "It worked, Admiral. The alien ships have lost maneuvering control. They're drifting on ballistic trajectories." Humanity's victory. The trap had worked perfectly. The most technologically advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen had been defeated not by superior weapons or shields, but by human ingenuity and the very star that had given birth to life on Earth. Captain Sarah Chen opened communication channels to Earth. "Earth Control, this is Jupiter Station. The threat has been neutralized. Repeat, the alien fleet is disabled." Across Earth, celebrations erupted in every major city. People poured into the streets, embracing strangers and crying tears of joy. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious through cooperation, intelligence, and the determination to never surrender. The aftermath. In the weeks that followed, human rescue ships approached the disabled alien vessels. The Dominion crew members were found alive but severely weakened by radiation exposure. Dr. Rivera led the medical teams that provided treatment, demonstrating the same ingenuity in healing that had been used in warfare. Zara 9 recovered consciousness in a human medical facility aboard the research ship Discovery. She found herself looking up at Dr. Rivera, who was monitoring her vital signs with obvious concern. "Your radiation levels are dropping," Marcus told her through a translation device. "You'll make a full recovery." Zara 9 struggled to understand. In her experience, conquered enemies were enslaved or eliminated. "Why do you help us?" Marcus smiled. Because that's what humans do. We defend ourselves when threatened, but we don't destroy those who can no longer hurt us. A new beginning. The disabled Dominion ships were towed to safe orbits around Mars, where their crews were given medical treatment and their technology was studied. What humanity learned from these ships would advance their spacefaring capabilities by centuries. But more importantly, the galaxy learned about humanity. News of the incredible victory spread to other star systems, carrying a message that would echo across the cosmos. Earth was not a helpless world waiting to be conquered. It was the home of a species that could turn their own star into a weapon when their survival was threatened. Admiral Knox stood in his command center, looking at reports from around the solar system. The alien threat was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. They were no longer alone, and they were no longer weak. Lieutenant Sophia Petrov had become a hero, her name known across Earth for pressing the button that saved humanity. But she remained at Mars Base, now expanded into a major military installation and research facility. Captain Sarah Chen continued her work at Jupiter Station, now serving as humanity's first line of defense against future threats. But she also served as a beacon of hope, showing that human curiosity and determination could overcome any challenge.